New York City, 1915. Margaret Sanger has founded the National Birth Control League. Later, in 1942, after 3 name changes, it would become known as Planned Parenthood. In her first newspaper, The Woman Rebel, she wrote,
"Birth control appeals to the advanced radical because it is calculated to undermine the authority of the Christian churches. I look forward to seeing humanity free someday of the tyranny of Christianity, no less than capitalism."
She also published 3 articles on the necessity for social revolution and 2 defending political assassinations. Margaret Sanger was so militant that she was served with a subpoena indicting her on 3 counts for the publication of lewd and indecent material in violation of the federal Comstock laws. She then fled the country under an assumed name and a forged passport. In 1919, an article appeared in Margaret Sanger's magazine, The Birth Control Review. In it, she stated that her goal was to create a race of thoroughbreds by encouraging more children from the fit and less from the unfit. In her book, The Pivot of Civilization, she called for the elimination of human undergrowth, for the segregation of morons, misfits, and the maladjusted, and for the sterilization of genetically inferior races. In the years that followed, many other articles in her magazines would leave no doubt as to her racist views. A 1923 edition of her magazine spoke out on the restriction of immigration on a racial basis. In 1933, the Review published an article on sterilization by Ernst Rudin, who was Hitler's director of genetic sterilization and a founder of the Nazi Society for Racial Hygiene. Later that same year, she published an article by Leon Whitney entitled Selective Sterilization, which adamantly praised and defended the Third Reich's racial programs. Margaret Sanger was also involved in what became known as the Negro Project, in which they stated that the masses of Negroes, particularly in the South, still breed carelessly and disastrously, with the result that the increase among Negroes, even more than among whites, is from that portion of the population least intelligent and fit. The aim of the project was to hire 3 or 4 colored ministers to travel to various black enclaves and propagandize for birth control. Margaret wrote,
"The most educated approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members."
The project turned out to be quite successful. Scores of blacks across the country happily fell into step behind Margaret and the racists she had placed on her Negro Advisory Council.